Good morning. This is a recording for Friday, April 5th. We have been talking about what empathy is and how we can develop it. Today, let's start looking at the barriers to empathy. We will start with sympathy because empathy and sympathy are often confused, and yet they're very different things. Rather than being a tool for connection, sympathy actually creates disconnection. When someone says, I feel sorry for you, they are standing at a safe distance where the kind of misery you're experiencing just doesn't happen. Rather than conveying the powerful me too of empathy, it communicates not me and then adds, but I do feel sorry for you. Sympathy can actually be a trigger for shame. For example, researchers found that cancer patients on the receiving end of sympathy describe it as an unwanted, superficial, pity-based response that, although well-intended, is focused on the observer's discomfort rather than on alleviating the patient's distress. Empathy helps us move away from shame toward resilience. Sympathy, on the other hand, can actually exacerbate shame because in most cases, when you give sympathy, we don't reach across to understand the world as others see it. We look at others from our world through our lens and feel sorry or sad for them. Inherent in empathy is judgment. I don't understand your world, but from where I stand, things look pretty bad for you. Empathy-seeking is driven by the need to know that we are not alone. When we ask for empathy, we ask to know that other people have experienced similar feelings and that our experiences don't keep us from being accepted and affirmed, from belonging. Sympathy-seeking, on the other hand, is about feel sorry for me because I am the only one this is happening to. My situation is worse than everybody else's. Well, sometimes people say it always happens to me. Obviously, this naturally creates disconnection and separation. People seeking sympathy are not really looking for empathy at all. They are not looking for any evidence of shared experiences. They're just searching for confirmation of their unique suffering. Brené Brown says that we usually feel manipulated and controlled by the people in our lives who are sympathy-seeking. There is even a counseling term, sympathy-seeking mode. Isn't that interesting? So it's not unusual to feel resentful or dismissive when someone requests our sympathy. When people look for sympathy, it feels like a no-win situation. On the one hand, they are telling us that they have it worse than anyone and no one can understand them. But on the other hand, they are looking for our validation, for our understanding. So it's a kind of catch-22. Brené Brown tells a story of one of her research participants. This woman says, in my family, my husband is the only one who is entitled to have it hard. Even if I am going through something just like him or even worse, the attention needs to be on him. He is not really asking for help. He just wants me to tell him that his life is hard and unfair and worse than mine. He thinks he works harder, sleeps less, and does more, which he doesn't, and it's exhausting. Sometimes the best we can do with someone who is sympathy-seeking is to kind of fake, yeah, that's really hard, or wow, that sounds rough. but on the inside, we're probably thinking, oh, please just get over it. Sometimes these requests for sympathy make us so angry and resentful that we cannot even muster a benign response. However they play out, it's easy to see why these exchanges rarely produce real connection, real understanding. So the bottom line is what separates sympathy and empathy is our motivation for sharing our struggles. Ironically, though, our motivation for sympathy seeking is often shame. When we find ourselves seeking sympathy, it is helpful to step back and think about what we are really feeling and what it is that we really need. On the other hand, when we are asked to give sympathy, we have to decide if we want to simply give it and move on, or really try to connect and develop empathy. If we want to develop connection and understanding, sometimes the best way to practice compassion is to say, it sounds like you are in a hard place. Tell me more about it. Or, you're right. I don't know what this is like for you. What is it like? Please help me understand. Brené Brown says that when she facilitates groups, she'll even say to someone seeking sympathy, you're telling us that no one can understand, yet you're asking us to understand. So what should we do? We really want to connect, but you are telling us it's impossible. Often, a dialogue grounded in these questions can actually lead to genuine empathy and connection. Today, let's do a reflection around that. Do you have people in your life who constantly seek your sympathy? Or perhaps you yourself sometimes engage in this sympathy-seeking mode? Remember, whatever you discover through this exercise, it is okay. There is no judgment, no blame. We're just trying to learn more about ourselves and others so that we can move through our life more skillfully, more compassionately, and feel more at ease. So take a comfortable position, and as always, take a few moments to settle. Find spaciousness in your breathing, allowing all the experiences of the present moment to flow through you as energy that they are, without struggle. In this exercise today, we will look at 3 different scenarios. First, we will look at your response to somebody who is sharing their story of suffering with you. Is your response real empathy or sympathy? Second, we will look at a situation when somebody in your life is clearly engaged in sympathy seeking versus empathy seeking. And finally, we will examine if you go into sympathy-seeking modes at times. Again, this exercise is not designed to assign any blame, to create any judgment. It's just an exploration of what is, nothing less, nothing more. So let's start with the first scenario. Bring to mind a friend who is currently suffering. The suffering can be emotional or physical. Imagine your friend sharing their story with you. What is your response? Do you engage in real empathy? Meaning, are you trying to see the situation through your friend's lens? Perspective taking. Are you recognizing their feelings and communicating back to them with mindful compassion that they are not alone? This is a shared human experience. I get that. I feel with you. We've all been there. It's okay to feel this way. Or are you sympathizing with your friend by saying something like, "Oh, you poor thing, bless your heart. I cannot imagine this happening to me, but yeah, it sounds really bad." Can you see how this sympathy response immediately creates distance between you and your friend? And if you discover that this is your response, that you're actually responding with sympathy versus empathy, please don't judge yourself. It's okay. We're all human and we all do what we can. Just your intention to examine a more skillful way of being with another human is enough. Now take a couple of breaths. Maybe shift your posture a bit, maybe even open your eyes. And let's move on to the second scenario. Now imagine that your friend is sharing their suffering with you, but it's clear that they don't need your empathy at all. What they're doing is sympathy seeking. Maybe they say something like, "Why does this shit always happen to me?" Or, "Seriously, life is so unfair. I feel so alone." First, examine, how does being asked to sympathize feel in your body? What thoughts does it evoke? Do you feel resentful? Maybe because this person always does this and it's exhausting to deal with this kind of requests when you know all they seek is not genuine empathy but just need a sounding board for their complaints. Does it feel like you're being manipulated in some way? How are you inclined to respond to that? Remember, Brené Brown offers two ways, both equally valid depending on the situation. One would be to simply give the person what they're actually looking for, sympathy. "Yeah, I hear you. It sucks to be you," type of thing. Or do you want to try and create an opportunity for connection and real empathy by maybe saying something like, "You're right. I don't know what that's like. What is it like? Help me understand." Whatever you choose is fine. Just be aware of your inclination. Once again, take a few breaths. Maybe switch your posture. Maybe open your eyes as we move on to the third scenario. Now imagine that you are the one sharing your experience of suffering with a trusted friend. What is your real motivation here? Are you seeking real empathy or are you seeking sympathy? Kind of just venting out without trying to create a connection for a shared human experience. Again, be open and honest with yourself. We all go into the sympathy seeking mode at times. It's okay. You're human, and as such, you are not above this yourself. If you find that this is the case, that you're actually seeking sympathy, perhaps it would be helpful to bring your motivation to light and tell yourself, how interesting. In this case, I am actually the one trying to elicit pity, sympathy by my sharing. Oh well, how human of me to do this. Next time, I'll try to be more in tune with my motivation before I decide to share anything. Once again, take a couple of breaths and let go of this exercise. Place your hands on your heart and send the energy of loving kindness to yourself with gratitude for being here, for going through this challenging exercise. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well in body and mind. May I feel loved, cared for, at ease. May I know that I am enough. May I touch deep, natural peace. And as you gently let go of your practice, as always, scan your body and notice what's going on for you right now, physically, emotionally, mentally. How are you really? As you go through your day today, I invite you to continue with this reflection. What separates sympathy and empathy is our motivation for sharing struggles. What is your default pattern when sharing your struggles and when listening to the struggles of others? As always, enjoy your discoveries. And if you feel inspired, please share in the comments here or in our uh, private group, Mindful Morning Circle. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.